Let's talk about the best settings and keybinds for healers in New Worlds. Going into our settings here, we are going to be looking at the game tab under settings on the left side of our screen. Under camera, we want to make sure camera shake is turned off. Next up, scrolling down to HUD or HUD, we are going to find a default reticle color of your choice. Now the default is white, as you can see here, but we want to find a very vibrant color that you think you can use to see your enemies easy. Next up under HUD is a very important one, always show weapons. We want to make sure this is on. Under always show weapon is show extra ability cooldowns. We want to make sure this is on as well. And floating damage numbers is kind of an aesthetic type of thing. If you want to save your frames per second, you can turn this off. But if you want to see those big green healing numbers, you can keep this on. The next important setting is going to be the player nameplate amount. And you can see up to 100 players nearby. Now, would I recommend that? No, because it is going to tank your FPS. So if you have a very low-end computer, I would highly recommend to turning it down super low. And yes, this will affect your gameplay because you will not be able to see your allies easy. But you know, if you have a pretty bad computer, this is going to have to be what you rock to save your frames per second. Now, if you have a medium to high-end computer, I would recommend around the 40 to 50 range. You can see enemies, you can see allies, and you can easily heal out of your group, and you can see enemies that are coming to attack you. Now, next up is going to be under the healing tab. We want to make sure for our group healers. So if you are an AoE healer, do not listen to me just yet. So for our group healers, we want to make sure targeted healing is on. Once targeted healing is on, we also want to make sure freeform camera is on. It is going to allow us to cast a heal on someone and look around like this. Everything under freeform camera can pretty much be turned off, such as camera aim retargeting off, sticky lock off, manual target lock off, group mode off. The reason why we want group mode off is because we want to be able to heal outside of our group as much as possible. And yes, since we are using healing keybinds, we can easily heal inside of our group as well by clicking our keybind. So having group mode on is actually a very negative thing to do because it limits your capability to heal outside of your group and save different allies. For raid targeting via groups and hotkeys and show hotkey hints in raid, I would just keep these on. Raid healing right now is kind of buggy, and I can't really explain the bug, but it just feels like you really can't heal outside of your group or use your keybinds to heal your group properly. Now, I might be mistaken by this, and it might not be a bug, but from the way I understand it, it just feels really clunky. For our AoE healers, we can also have another option here, and that is going to be turning off targeted healing. So if you turn off targeted healing, you are not going to be able to target your heals, and you can free cast all of your AoE abilities. Now, is this good? Yes. And do I always use it? No. When I PvE, even though I'm using AoE healing in PvE, I will keep on my targeted healing simply because it allows me to put my sacreds on the tank or group members quite easily. However, when I'm PvPing and AoE healing, I turn my targeted healing off. Before we get into the big juicy life staff healing keybinds, let's talk about a few quality of life keybinds that you might want to change. The first keybind that you might want to change is going to be under the action tab here. As you can see, we see swap weapon under the action tab, and I have it listed as number 1. The difference between swap weapon and weapon number 1 and weapon number 2 is that you can only use one keybind to swap between your weapons. This is very simple and very easy to get used to, and it saves you an extra finger being placed on your keyboard. If you are currently using 2 keybinds to swap your weapons, I would really highly consider swapping one of your keybinds to swap weapon and just using that single keybind to swap between your weapons. Now that we got that out of the way, let's scroll down here to life staff combat. We have amazing settings here to choose from, but before we choose our keybinds here, let's talk about what they exactly do. So starting off with target self, if we hold down left control, that is the default keybind, and you press your single target heal such as Divine's Embrace, or you can cast any other targeted heal such as Sacred Grounds, it is going to target yourself. Now this does not work for abilities such as Beacon or Orb of Protection, which are not targeted. The next keybind is going to be exit auto target. Now this is only useful for free placing your sacred, and what I mean by that is if you cast a sacred on someone and you want to cast it elsewhere on the battlefield or in arenas, PvE, or outpost rush, you can simply just press your keybind to unlock it. So the keybind I would recommend for that is going to be middle mouse button. The next 2 keybinds are cycle target up and cycle target down. We want to make sure that we are not using these. So I believe the default keybinds for cycle target up and cycle target down is going to be mouse wheel up and mouse wheel down. This was a traditional way of healing probably about 2 years ago before AGS implemented key bindings in the game. So if you are still using this way to heal, you need to really get on top of your keybinds and start practicing now. Key bindings were the best addition to healing in New World, and you really need to make sure that you have gotten them down. So moving on to target group member 1, this is always going to be yourself. You want to match your target group member 1 keybind with your target self keybind. My target self keybind is going to be left control, and that means my target group member 1 keybind should be left control as well. How does target group member 1 and target self keybindings work differently from each other? Well, it's very simple to understand. I am going to use AMZS Dad for an example here. So the difference between target self and target group member 1 keybind is that if you are casting a heal on someone else and you press your target group member 1 keybind, it is going to cast on top of you. Why is this useful? Well, if you are taking damage and you need to heal yourself quickly, even though you have someone else targeted, you could easily just quickly swap to heal yourself. The rest of the keybinds, you want to make sure that you are using them on your free hand. And what do I mean by your free hand? Well, in New World, you always want to keep your main hands on W, A, S, and D and shift, and you never want to take them off. This is because you always have to be active and moving and making sure that you are on top of your movement in this game. If you get caught by CC, you need to make sure you are able to dodge out of the next follow-up attacks. If you have a keybind that makes you stand still, you need to really think about changing them as well. You always want to make sure you have a hand on W, A, S, and D. Now that we have that in mind, we need to talk about the rest of the keybinds. So target group number 2 through 5, they are going to be on your mouse. Now, most people that are watching this video are going to have a mouse that has a properly working mouse wheel up and down keybind and 2 mouse buttons. That is just the standard now for gaming nowadays. With that being said, we want to make sure our target group member 2 keybind is going to be mouse wheel up, and we want to make sure our target group member number 5 is going to be mouse wheel down. Having mouse wheel up and down is going to just make it very intuitive and make you understand your keybinds even more. Mouse wheel up is going to be the furthest person up that is not you, and mouse wheel down is going to be the furthest person away. And similarly with target group member 3 and target group member 4, you are going to use your side mouse buttons. There is 2 more settings I want to talk about, so let's quickly talk about them. We want to go back into our keybind settings in the top left and scroll down until we find our block keybind. Most people are going to have their block on right mouse button. If you are new to healing in this game, you might have started healing and tried to cancel your heal. So if you try to cancel your heal and you hold right mouse button, your stamina is actually not going to regenerate. As you can see here, my stamina is still stuck at 60. However, if we go into our key bindings here and either change our right mouse button keybind to a different one or unkeybind it, we can actually have a better effect with our canceling of heals. Let's dodge here 2 times. Let's cast a heal on someone and let's press right mouse button again. As you see here, I canceled my heal, but my stamina is still going up. Now, why is that? Well, I don't know exactly why that is, but it has to do with something under the ranged combat keybind. So under here, it says aim. You want to make sure your aim keybind is on right mouse button. This is going to allow you to cancel your heals without your stamina being stopped. So you need to find a different key binding for your block or just unkeybind it fully. I have chosen to do tab, and that might not be something for you, but it just allows me to block easy stuff, especially with my shield when I'm walking forward. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Peace, baby.